this is the question of whether or not William Barr is actually doing a good job. Everyone's saying, oh my gosh, everyone's so scared. Comey's scared. Is the CIA director scared? Are they scared? The Department of Justice is scared of what Barr's investigation is going to find out. And the reality is they're not scared at all. Like, there's nothing to be scared of whatsoever. And I'm going to explain why that is. So I'm going to leave a link below to skip ahead because this is going to give layman's terms of what just happened, just kind of lay out the land for those of you who are new. But to skip ahead, I'm going to give a little link. If it'll give a number, it'll give a date stamp. It'll say like something. It'll say like 7/20, and just skip to that, and I'll tell you exactly why it is ahead. But I'm going to lay this out for those of you guys who are new to it and tell you guys exactly what just happened. So here is what happened so that you guys are aware of where Barr stands versus where the NSA and the FBI stands versus Graham versus Nadler. This is just a lay of the land of what Washington, D.C. looks like right now. So right now, this is like the head of the United States, our United States government. So we have 3 branches of government, and they are balance of power. So we have the presidency, which is the White House. We have Congress, which is split into 2 houses, the Senate and the House. One right now is run by the Republicans. One is run by the Democrats. Say that. So Nadler is the head of a committee that's looking into all the Republicans right now. And in the Senate, we have Senator Graham, who I don't support because he's funded by a big leftist. But they've wiped all that now they've censored it all offline. Can't find it anymore. But his actions, I'm going to talk about that today. His actions are just like, I'm like, right there, going to do it, doing exactly what I said, I'll talk about that today. So, like exactly what I've always said. I'm like, actions speak louder than words. Great words, but so he heads a committee in the Republican side. So, and then the third branch which is the Supreme Court. Now, luckily for us, we don't have to worry about the Supreme Court, right? So, though everyone who's scared about the Supreme Court, they're doing a lot of rulings that are like 9-0, including one ruling, by the way, if you're watching the Supreme Court, that said, no, a dead judge can't rule. When they die, they can't rule anymore. Democrats in California are using dead judges to rule. They're like, we thought he would rule this way because they didn't like how the next judge coming up would have ruled. It would have changed the ruling. So they're using dead judges now. Like, that's how bad it's gotten. I'm like, wow. So it's really hard to support that. It's really hard you're like, I can't be there anymore. So, anyway, so this is the other side of things. So this is our Congress. These are the people we elected, and these are the 3 branches of government that balance power. Then there's the justice side of things. This is like the U.S. Attorney General, and then there's the Department of Justice over here, and these are the investigators, and then like there's the FBI, and then these are like the intelligence community, right? So this is, and there's like 17, this is the intelligence gathering communities. And they just gather intelligence. And the reason I have Britain and Australia in there is because their intelligence communities are involved in this. Like, Britain's spies are involved with this. Australia's diplomats are involved in this. And they collected and recorded people and did surveillance during all of this. So they were involved in it. So really, we don't need to worry about the Supreme Court because they're not involved in this at all. But we have the intelligence community, and we don't know how many agencies were involved yet. We know of just a few so far. So here is what happened that we know so far, basically. We know from the documents released so far through Freedom of Information Act requests, through things like Judicial Watch and things like intelligence committees on both sides, like looking into and asking them to be released. We know so far that in Washington, D.C., there's a really, really big law firm called, I believe, Perkins & Coie. And there's usually a law firm that a lot of political organizations go through, and if a politician wants to whitewash their money and they want to do something, they go to a law firm and they whitewash the money through it. They hire the law firm to hire the thing they want done, so then it's the law firm's name on it, but they still traced all the money back. So they know that the Clinton campaign, they still did all the tracing back. The Clinton campaign hired Perkins Coie to hire, I believe it's Fusion GPS or something like that, Fusion. And then they hired people, and they went and hired like the British intelligence, another thing. And all this hiring went on to write up this like Steele dossier, right? to write this dossier that said, oh, Trump is colluding with the Russians, which was basically like a tabloid story, a great tabloid story. And the intention was to get the news to write about it, to get the news to write about it and leak it and say it's coming from the intelligence community. The intelligence community find out about it. But the media wouldn't even touch it. They're like, it's so unbelievable, they wouldn't even touch it. And so they're like, oh, well, then we better turn it into like the State Department or get it through the government. And so then they have all this signs now of turning it into government officials and having them turn it into even White House officials in order to make it valid. And it even eventually went up through FISA courts, and certain FBI and DOJ people and even the CIA head turned this kind of tabloid junk that's unverifiable and just made up things basically that was funded by the Hillary campaign, turned it in. And even McCain, you know, because Trump hit McCain on the campaign trail, even McCain, the establishment GOP is no different than the DNC. They're just no different at this point. They both work for the UN. All their goals are the same. You can even see establishment GOP people saying, universal health care for all, that's where we're all going. And I'm like, that's SDG, Sustainable Development Goal number 3 for the UN. Like, they're all on the same page. So McCain wanted Trump taken down, so he goes and hands it into, I believe, the Obama White House or the State Department, whatever. So they hand it in and make it real, and then the news picks it up, and it's this whole 9 yards of, and they finally get it up to the FISA court, and the FISA court's like, sure, all right, tabloid gossip, but you know, but you're going to vouch for it? Sure, we'll go ahead and give you all the warrants to go spy on all of his colleagues, and they give him carte blanche to go and treat them like terrorists. And with no rights, and releases all of their basically Bill of Rights, sustains all of their rights as U.S. citizens for not just Trump, but the entire Trump campaign during the election cycle, like starting around July or whatever. And then that continues on, like through the election and everything like that. And then once he's elected, they start covering their tracks, and they still, you know, they're covering their tracks at the same time they do the Mueller investigation they started up in. You hear it for 2 years. Well, then it just finally ended. And what happens is that Barr comes in. Now, who is William Barr? Well, to understand who William Barr is, you have to understand that when any new president comes in, their job is to appoint new cabinet members. That's what a new president does. He said he cleaned the swamp. Well, every president comes in and, you know, picks like a new general, picks all new cabinet members, new head of housing, new head of health, new head of... That's their job, is they introduce new heads, and then the Senate comes together and they do confirmation hearings and they confirm everyone. Well, for the first time in history, for the first time in U.S. history, the Democrats have held up all the confirmations. So it has taken 2 years to actually confirm, I think, well, no, they confirmed... one of the other guys, I think well, it's taken a long time. They're still confirming people. But they had another guy in, and then he went ahead and recused himself. I think that guy, they recused himself. And so he couldn't touch the Russian investigation. And now they have a new guy in to take his place. Well, this guy wasn't working with Trump on the campaign, so he had nothing to do with it. And so Mueller came to him and was like, I want to keep going on this Trump thing. And he said, I want to keep the investigation going, because that's what his job is. He's the United States prosecutor. Like, he decides what crimes to be prosecuted in the United States. He's the prosecutor for all federal crimes in the United States. So Mueller brings him and says, I want to keep prosecuting this case. And Barr's like, all right, show me your evidence. Well, as we see now, from 400, 500 pages, there's no evidence to be found. Now, here's something very important to know. Every president has something that's called executive privilege. And I believe Obama claimed it, and Bush claimed it, and Clinton claimed it 14 times. Bill Clinton claimed executive privilege 14 times, which basically means you can't prosecute me for a crime. You can't come after me. So when the attorney general starts coming for you a crime, you can shut it down. And Trump did not do that. He said, come for me. And no one talks about that. Like, I didn't know about that. I found out about that last month. And I was like, ooh. I found out about it when he started talking executive privilege for his taxes. And I was like, but you could have, and he didn't. He let it just go the whole 2 years. He just let them, he turned in like 1 million sheets. And that's why you hear them say, all these talking heads say, it's unprecedented the amount of access this president is giving, because presidents never give access to their information or their files. Presidents always claim executive privilege for privacy. They don't want their stuff out there. But this time they actually did. They actually did. And a lot of people, the people who knew about it, I understand the tapes now that they were talking about, they were saying that shows that he thinks he's innocent. I think there must have been another game plan in play, but that's for another video. Like, looking back now, and I think there are other things going on. But anyway, because he could have shut down the Mueller investigation at any time. So, but I kind of think that would have made him look, everyone in the country would have thought he looked guilty. He had to, in my opinion, he had to let them have total free reign for anyone in the country to actually think that he wasn't guilty. He had to just let hands off. In my opinion, just be like, if he invaded at all, people would have assumed he was guilty. And so Barr was like, you know what? Nope. There's no evidence here, because he can be brought up. He can lose his license. He can get in trouble with the Bar Association if anything comes down the line, if he breaks some rules. So he was like, nope, you can, there's no evidence here whatsoever. So, he didn't continue it. So Mueller was like, well, then if I don't have, he wanted to go even further and invade more, whatever. But as you saw, as it was coming to a close, he wasn't, the people he was bringing down by then, none of it had to do with Russia, right? None of it had to do with it. Not even Russia. None of it had to do with Trump anymore. So Barr was like, just let it go and bring me what you have, and we'll bring the convictions that you have. And then there was nothing. There weren't even any new subpoenas. And so that it ended. So then everything ended. And then what did William Barr do? After everything was over, William Barr was like, okay, so Mueller turned in your report. Mueller turned in his report. And it was like, oh, there's no crime. For Trump, there was no crime. That's what Mueller said. Mueller turned in his report, and he said the evidence states that there's no crime. Even a guy on CNN said, I read through the Mueller report, all 500 pages, and he said there was no hope of a crime. No hope of ever coming close to a crime with Trump, right? So then the very next thing Barr does is he announces that he just put this guy named John Durham on the case. And everyone got so excited. They were like, John Durham, this guy from Connecticut. John Durham is a prosecutor. And it turns out not only that, but John Durham's been on the case for a few months now, which means Barr put someone on the case. And what he is doing is he's looking at this Mueller investigation and saying, something fishy is going on. What was all this intelligence gathering? Why did you go to the FISA court? Why were you looking at a presidential candidate like a terrorist when there was zero evidence whatsoever? Not only that, but all the evidence shows that you planted evidence. Like, this 500 pages looks like you actually planted evidence. And in reality, when you start talking to the people who went to jail, all of their testimony says, I was set up. Like, when you listen to the testimony, it was setup after setup. They all took meetings with FBI agents, and the FBI agents said, go meet with this person. And then because they met with that person, they got put in jail. Like, and every single person they met with knew Mueller. And then the Mueller person, they didn't know they knew Mueller. And then the Mueller contact said, go meet with this person. They met with that person. Because they met with that person, they went to jail. Like, it was just insanity. And so now they're looking into it, right? So everyone's all excited that this John Durham guy is going to come along because he prosecuted Whitey Bulger and took the FBI down. And this is why now we're at the point where I said I'm going to skip ahead, and we're going to catch up with everybody. Here we go. All right, here we are at why I don't think that anything's going to happen with this John Durham, and why I think William Barr is, and that the left is actually just screwing us over and making us think that justice is going to happen. There is not going to be any justice. And I can't say his name. I can never say his name, but I think he had it right. So look, the Justice Department and these justice guys, they scratch each other's back, especially when it comes to the D.C. corridor. And the D.C. corridor runs from D.C. to Vermont. All these states are like from D.C. to Vermont to Maine to Connecticut to Boston to Pennsylvania. All of those cities and states are all like sanctuary states. They're big corridors. They're big drug trafficking corridors. None of the citizenry knows that they're sanctuary states. They don't know they have sanctuary city policies. Maine was the very, very first sanctuary city in the entire United States. The ports all the way up and down the Northeast, they are absolutely used for refugees, and the Congress just dumps refugees there, doesn't even tell them about it. It's absolutely insanity. And so all the homes in the Northeast are just rotted out, rusted. The jobs have left. People are poor. They can't pay for anything. But the politicians are rich. Go to Vermont. Rich, rich ski resorts. Super, super rich. That's where all the rich homes are. So it's like high and low. You can see that wealth gap that happened. You can see it right in the Northeast. But they still vote. They still vote Democrat. And all the kids, oh, they don't stay Democrat. They think Democrat's stupid. They all fled the left. And where did they go? Did they go GOP? No, they fled it to right the libertarians. The libertarians that are funded by George Soros and Ford and Carnegie. The exact same people who fund the left. They founded it in 1972, the same exact year. They founded the Cato Institute the same exact year as Sweden and the UN met together to start the climate change agenda, which was world socialism. They knew it would drive everyone out, drive wages down. They knew it would kill the middle class. And they said, these middle class kids are going to flee, but we need a catch net so that they don't go to the GOP and don't vote GOP. And all the kids ever since have flown the coop to libertarian. And the Libertarian Party says one thing, no borders. So the migration thing happens. It's genius. It's absolute genius. And so you won't find any Northeast kids that are GOP. Nope, nope, nope. So all the states are still Democrats, still controlled, still libertarian, because libertarian votes go down the tube. Yep, you won't find any GOP in the Northeast. It was a genius move by Soros and Cato and the Ford Institute who backed BLM. So anyway, so here we go to Durham. So this is what Durham has been given. If you look at what Durham's been given, he has been given the power to review the Mueller investigation. He has not been green-lighted a criminal investigation. What's the difference between a criminal investigation and a review of the Mueller investigation? So Durham has been green-lighted to go ahead and look at Mueller. This 2.5 years, this 2.5 years of going into Trump and the FISA court, the 2.5 years of FISA court abuse. And we're talking bad abuses, we're talking unmasking, all of it going in, wiretapping, the whole 9 yards of a presidential campaign of an opponent. Remember, be very aware of this. It was completely funded by an opposing campaigner. Literally one campaign funded the spying of another campaign and an actual attack, an accusation on another campaign. Not just an accusation, but funded for them to go to jail. Funded a terrorism court to take them down. You know, go against their presidency. So this whole 2 years of calling, you know, taking him down and saying that he's been working with Russia and ruining international relationships was all funded by the opposition campaign. That is some serious, it's worse than Watergate. It's really, really bad. And not only that, but he worked with all these different departments, right? Now, here's what to understand. So people are like very, very excited because they're like, Durham's on the case. William Barr's had the balls to go after Durham, to go after Mueller. He assigned a prosecutor to case to look at these people who broke the law, very clearly broke the law to go after an opposing campaign and lift the Bill of Rights on all of these people. It's very clear that they broke the law in a bunch of ways. Except that he only gave him the power to review. Reviewing is like a book report. He was green-lit to look at the paper trail. That's it. That's all John Durham gets to do, you guys, is look at the paper trail. He gets to look at texts, emails, and transcripts, and that's it. Thank you, William Barr. All of America has looked at the text and emails. We heard them all read in Congress. Thank you, William Barr, for allowing us to actually have some prosecutor from Connecticut in this lovely D.C. corridor come on over and read along and present you with a book report. I believe we already have one from the DOJ. We've had like 8 reports given. We already know what it all says. Great, you're going to do a bigger book report and get the full scope of it. And then what are you going to do? You're going to turn it into Congress and say, boom. And what's going to happen? All these are going to say, look at all the laws they broke. Look, Congress, and that's all that's going to happen. And that means they can do it again. That means, yep, we see it and we're not going to do jack. And that means all of our civil liberties, and that means that's a green light. If you have read The Intimidation Game by Kim Strassel, and know what's going on with Amazon and the Southern Poverty Law Center and what they're doing to conservative businesses. If you are in any way conservative, vote conservative, fund conservative, do conservative fund drives, and conservative in America today means anyone who isn't a communist. If you are anything right of communist, if you believe in fair speech at all, a classical liberal or anything, a libertarian, anything like that, the Southern Poverty Law Center will come after you, and the FISA court will come after you one day, and you will not have any civil liberties. And William Barr is saying, including presidential candidates that we don't want. If the UN doesn't want a presidential candidate, that's fine. We'll just do a book report about it, and one day a Hollywood script can happen. Is that what we're doing it for? So we can have another Whitey Bulger movie? Is that why you put Whitey Bulger at the top to say, hey, Hollywood, we're getting a book report together so we can go ahead and do another Hollywood movie? Because when John Durham went ahead and did the Whitey Bulger trial, yeah, Hollywood did a lot of movies on it. But he actually put some guys away. But that's the last time he did. All his other investigations, but you know what? Go ahead and read the fine print on the New York Times article. This time, William Barr didn't even give him as much investigative power as all his other investigations. He got the least. He got the least amount of investigative power than he ever has before. That's according to reports. That's according to reports. That's according to reports. Let me tell you what a criminal investigation actually entails. It entails subpoenas, trials, juries, interviews, witnesses. That means he can say, I'd like to talk to you, and they can say, no, and that's the end of it. So, I just like to say, what are we all cheering for? This was a great show for all the leftist newspapers to say, oh, the CIA is scared. John Brennan is scared. Oh, Comey is scared. Is Comey acting scared? Is this 6 foot tall, 7 foot tall guy acting scared? Is he like biting his nails? Or does he look like he's just sitting pretty? I think he's sitting pretty, and I think I know why he's sitting pretty. You know why he's sitting pretty? Oh, let me give you a little insight to that, because we've got another guy. Let me tell you what else is going on. When it was announced that this guy is only doing a book report, Lindsey Graham, funded by Warren Buffett. Lindsey Graham, this guy who says a lot and votes not a lot. He votes with the UN, helps the UN a lot, global socialism. He helps them out a lot. But Hannity says vote for him for what he says, not for what he does. Never mentions how he votes. Isn't that interesting? Just give a good speech and you'll get a national plug on television. Great. Wonder if Warren Buffett's funding the Hannity spot. Can't imagine. I wouldn't be surprised. So Lindsey Graham goes ahead. I know he does other good reporting, but I mean really. I mean really. So Lindsey Graham goes ahead and he says to the New York Times says, Lindsey Graham says, we're going to pull back our investigation. If he's going to do a criminal investigation, we're going to pull back our investigation. And when he hears that, oh no, it's just a book report, Lindsey Graham goes, okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do another investigation. And do you know what kind of investigation he says he wants to do? Guess what, you guys? He wants the investigation into the Mueller team to be as wide-ranging as Mueller was. I want you to let that sink in. I want you to let that sink in. New York Times, Senator Lindsey Graham wants, and I don't put much stock in the New York Times, except, you know, more than one place, he went ahead and gave them a quote. It wasn't an anonymous sort. He was talking to them. Should also tell you something that he talks to the New York Times. When they use a person, the UN only uses their people, man. He wants to launch an investigation into the Mueller investigation that's wide-ranging as the Mueller investigation was. Weren't we screaming on national television for 2.5 years that Mueller was given KGB powers, that it broke all civil liberty laws that it was an illegal thing and that we had now become a Russian state and that this was against all American principles? And wasn't Lindsey Graham saying the same thing? And now because John Durham wasn't being allowed to do a criminal investigation, Lindsey Graham's like, great, I'll go in and do it. How much you want to bet? How much you want to bet that this is about getting Senator Lindsey Graham reelected so he can vote for the UN again? How much do you want to bet that there isn't Warren Buffett back there just pulling those UN strings, making another billion more? How do you think he makes his billion? Did you know that Senator Lindsey Graham, as long as he's in Congress, he can get insider trading tips? Did you know that? Do you think when that little wealth gap started growing these last 30 years as Congress, which Senator Lindsey Graham has been around for, that lovely 30-year wealth gap, I wonder if you've seen his wallet and how it's grown in those last 30 years. I find it fascinating that we're doing Clean the GOP and everyone's praising Senator Lindsey Graham and like, let's keep him in. Oh, no. Oh, no, honey. All the problems you see around you, all the problems we've been seeing around us, all the problems that you think Trump is fixing were made by people like Senator Lindsey Graham. You're seeing a lot of people in Congress right now. There are a lot of new faces. Is his new? Is his new? And they're not putting those new faces on TV, are they? Oh, no. But they're asking some good questions. You know why? You got him. You did that. You did that. Clean the GOP did that. And they're all bright, alert, awake. They're sober. Like they're actually alert. No one's propping them up. They're standing on their own 2 feet. It's like a new Congress. It's like a new day. It's as if people woke up and decided to vote in people like them. Wow. And I think you should do the same with Senator Lindsey Graham before he goes out there and puts someone like Mueller in there as like a ha-ha, get you. You got us, now we're going to go get you. What the heck? I thought everyone was like, we're not like them. Like, we're all like, that's communism. That's like socialism. That's KGB. That's a Soviet tactic. And now Lindsey Graham's like, oh, because William Barr didn't do that? Great. I'm going to put together an investigative team and we're going to go do the same thing. The same thing back. We're just going to go be like the Democrats. We're going to go ahead and use Hillary Clinton tactics. I kid you not. Everything I said in Clean the GOP, everything I said about what they've become. And they're going to launch a Senate investigation that's going to be exactly the same. Going to turn that party into it. Clean them out. And South Carolina, what are you doing with this guy? Like, you're better than that. I've been down to the Carolinas. You guys are good people, and you know better than to know. You know a wolf in sheep's clothing. You know there's what they say and what they do. And may I ask you why Warren Buffett doesn't even live there? Oh, I'm going to get all into it. I'm going to get into it, and then I'm going to hurt myself, and then I'm going to have to lay down, and I'm never going to get to tape again. But I'm very, very upset. I'm very, very upset that everyone's just like, oh, someone speaks nice, but they don't look at their voting record. They just don't look at their voting record. They're like, oh, votes against all my interests, just talks well, says I'm going to vote this way, votes this way. I don't care, just as long as they talk us pretty Pete. Oh, said that they think Mueller is way out of their league, said that Mueller is violating civil liberties, said that an investigation like Mueller should never happen, and then boom, says, oh, can I do it? Can I get a crack at it? Now that Mueller did it, he set a precedent. Let me do it. Let me get a crack at the piñata. Let me violate all American values and ethics, please. Please let me go ahead and do some FISA court abuses. Whack, whack, whack. I told you, establishment GOP, no different than the left. No different. And William Barr assigning book reports to make it look like something's being done, he might as well set up a hot air balloon and send it off to Europe to make us all feel better. I'm Book of Katherine. Follow me on Twitter. If you think I'm snazzy like this, you should see what I tweet. You should see what I tweet. Because boy, do I tweet. about fashion, about politics, about everything, about science. I love you guys so much, and my cats. Check out my videos here, and I hope that you learned something, because gosh darn it, they don't want the American public knowing about politics, because it changes their lives. It affects the way you live. And I'm glad I was able to wear this top today. Yay. And this necklace. Been waiting to do that for a while. Been a while. Love you. Bye. Oh, donate down below. I really need... I'm doing a doctor's appointment like every week. Oh my gosh, I need donations. Please donate. Please, please donate. Please, please donate. Please, please buy me a coffee. Please. All right, I love you. Sorry, begging. Please, please, please. Bye. I did 2 videos.